Batu, Barada, Nikto. You must remember those words. Gordon's alive.
You know what the Turing test is?
I know Kung Fu.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
My God, it's full of stars.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Stories at Time and Space. I'm your regular host, Scott Weatherly, and as always, I'm joined by Julian Darius. And today, we are an effective team. How you doing, Julian? You okay?
You're actually speaking to Julian 49.
Yeah. That's
I'm
it.
doing okay. How are you?
Yeah, not so bad. Yeah. It's an interesting time. We are recording this. Not going to get into politics. Just putting aside. But there's the lay of the land across the world has changed slightly in the last week. So it may shadow things a little bit. We shall see as it comes into this. But today we are talking about Tom Cruise's 2013 sci-fi. I don't know. I don't know how to do this because I really like this film, but it's not classic. So it's underrated, I'd say. Film Oblivion, starring Tom Cruise, Morgan Freeman, Andrea Riseborough, Olga Klarenko, Nikolai Costa-Waldau, and then very few people from there. Set in, so what was it say? Jack Harper, a drone repairman.
70s.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, Jack Harper, a drone repairman stationed on Earth that has been ravaged by war with extraterrestrials, questions his identity after rescuing the woman who keeps appearing in his dreams. Stick at that. But yeah. So, Julian, initial thoughts then on 2013's Oblivion.
I did not like this movie.
Oh, okay.
I look forward to our conversation. It's not horrible,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think that it really makes a whole lot of sense. I really, I mean, I thought it was incredibly predictable. All of its twists were sort of pretentious and predictable. It looks good, but I have to say, I mean, I really have come to dislike Tom Cruise. I think he is like the weakest point of this movie. He embarrasses himself throughout this movie. I really hate him. His character, I want his character to die. I find his character super annoying every time he's on screen. It's like,
What is it
somebody
about him?
grating their nails on the chalkboard.
Okay, so it's a Tom Cruise issue rather than a character issue. Like, if this was played by somebody else, do you think it would be less
Well,
egregious?
the character would have to change, right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
like the way you meet the character is that he's like, oh, I'm the pilot who disobeys the rules, and he makes such a point of saying that, but he's smiling as he does it, and she's like, his partner says like, you were, endangering the mission or whatever. He's like, yeah, who cares, right? I mean, but he does it in this kind of like. I get that he has to be sort of a little disobedient to kind of make the plot work, but he has that kind of like Tom Cruise pompousness, he doesn't seem, I mean, I think another actor would play that character differently.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
just a cocky action hero,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing I should say is I enjoy and have fun with this film, but it is immensely derivative of so many other things. And you are right, it's incredibly predictable. Like, nothing goes on in this film that you can't see coming a mile away, at any point. Like, to the extent of, there's a kind of like the plot, the way that it's set up at the beginning. There's a voiceover as well, which we'll get to. This drone repairman that he is, and he has like the 49 on his coat, and it's him and this other woman, Victoria, are this effective team. And you get the suggestion that there's many of these drone repairmen all over the place, but you don't get to see them until you do. And the story that he has in his head, or the memory he has, is that there was a war with an alien race. The humans won, but it's left the world uninhabitable. And so there was a mission to go and colonize Titan,
Titan.
or yeah,
Yeah.
the moon of Saturn.
Where all the bad judges are hanging out.
That's yeah, yeah, and also it's a stopping off point for the Jupiter Mining Corps. Just we should know.
Hmm.
Um, so they're all off to Titan, and what they're doing is they're here to support this machinery that is sucking up water to create fusion energy for the people that are colonizing on um, uh, Titan. And so they think they're there as a sort of a last outpost, making sure these machines are fine. And there's these things called Ravagers, which is that he believes are sort of the remnants of the alien army that are trying to bring these things down.
Scavengers.
Scavengers, sorry, yeah, scavengers.
Yeah.
So he has it in his head that he's protecting these things to allow the human race, and they have a time limit. Like you keep hearing them say, like they've got 2 weeks, and 2 weeks their time is up, and they're able to retire and join these people traveling to Titan. That's the idea. I don't really find out if that's like how the baddies would have actually dealt with them in 2 weeks, but it's irrelevant. So they have this thing in his head. So I think you're saying this thing. Oh, is this gung ho sort of action hero kind of thing? I think they're trying to make him like an everyday, almost like a blue collar worker. Like he's a drone repairman. And like at one point in the first drone he comes across, like Victoria's like, "You can't fix that with what we have. We don't have the technology available to us." He's like, "I've got chewing gum to hand."
God, is that awful?
And so that's it. He sort of knows the tech, and he knows this sort of thing, and he's handsy and all this other stuff. So
Yeah.
it's all very typical. Like I don't yeah.
Well, and he says that, like in that narration, he says that like they've had their memory wiped, so that's going to come back, especially given
Hmm.
these memories that start the movie. All of these efforts to suck the water up are coordinated by this TET
Yeah.
space station sort of thing. Everything is not as it seems, right?
Hmm.
Right from the start. But the introduction, you say that like Tom Cruise is an everyman, but he just sort of like reeks of every Hollywood cliche of sort of like, I've got to be portrayed in a positive light. He's great at his job, so let's have him do the chewing gum thing. But he disobeys, breaks protocol, he's reckless. He is a really dislikable character. I mean, he just reeks of sort of privilege and, sort of like macho, the rules don't apply to me kind of, stuff. And he thinks he's cool when he's doing it, right? Um, like those rules exist for a reason. Those protocols exist for a reason. I mean, I know this is a kind of cliche, character, but I don't know. I mean, it's that supreme arrogance that he has in his performances of like, macho tough guys, who the rules I can't be held down by no rules kind of thing. I mean, this is a performance that, I was thinking, is this performance worse than Roddy Piper's in Frogtown? I think I would prefer Roddy
Yeah,
Piper.
don't go bashing Roddy. Like that's Oscar
No, that's what
winning.
I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
You know,
I know what you're saying. I think one of the things that's interesting about the time that this came out is this was when Mission Impossible like had really hit its stride as being, we'd got over the hump of two. We'd had three by J.J. Abrams, and it sort of hit its stride. And then you got four, which was Ghost Protocol, and stuff like, and it become a mega success. And I think so this is Cruise entering the second phase of his career of being like, oh, I'm the last of the American matinee idol kind of actors. Do you know what I mean?
hmm
And I think that's what this sort of film is very much him doing, is him playing. This is Ethan Hunt doing, doing these things. Like
Yeah.
just as he does stunts with Ethan Hunt, with in the Mission Impossible films, where he'll hang off a plane or he'll go up the side of a building or anything. There's bits in this where he's like, I've got a a scrambler bike and I'm going to do jumping off things and I'm going to ride around and like it's just Tom Cruise going like, oh, today I fancy riding a bike and you're going to film me doing it. Like looks great, but you're right. I mean, it's not any different things. But then like I'm okay with that. Like I don't, knowing this is a Tom Cruise vehicle, especially a Tom Cruise sci-fi vehicle. Um, I'm not expecting uh, a
Subtle
a
performance,
yeah, really.
a
I'm expecting.
complicated character.
No, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm
Yeah.
expecting a Tom Cruise sort of action film. Like do you know what I mean? I'm like, cool. This is what you're gonna do. Are you gonna do it well? And they kind of do. Where I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm coming in for, and
Yeah.
this isn't Minority Report. Like when we did Minority Report way back when, which is a Spielberg film. Like, that's a different kettle of fish. That's 2001.
Right.
Directed by Spielberg. He got a really good performance. Same with Vanilla Sky. Like
Yeah.
this is not Cruise doing.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise
P.T.
in
Anderson, Magnolia, right. This
exactly.
is Ethan
Ethan Hunt.
Hunt.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't like those movies. I
he's
don't
been,
like this, version of Cruise. I can deal with the Cruise in Minority Report. I still think it has a lot of these same traits that irritate me, just the white bread action hero who, is super lucky and, kind of macho. Um, but yeah, I mean, here it's like been taken to, it's Mission Impossible Extreme, and it's too far for me to relate. I mean, I just really detest this character. Um, and like the parallels to Moon are there,
yeah.
which we'll cover eventually, are there really early.
Hmm.
Um, and then it turns out that's pretty important. And I just think like, yeah, like Sam Rockwell is such a better actor. Like I want Sam Rockwell's like swarmy complexity, instead of this kind of like paper thin white bread guy.
But this film is paper thin.
Oh, yeah, I'm not arguing that.
No,
I
no,
mean,
and I accept that. This is one of those films. As I watched it, I was like, I thought to myself, this is one of the greyest but best looking films, that I enjoy. As I was watching this, I was thinking back on some of the films we've done in this sort of, especially in the Patreon side of things, where we've done some sort of, different bits and pieces. And I was thinking of like, even from the main feed, we've done like, Children of Men, or we've done like The Last Battle and all these different variants. I'm like, for all the films I didn't like and sort of stuff, like this is still, they all have often more going on and more sort of like thought into it. This is a comic book of a film in the set in the most derivative sense. Like this is white savior at its
oh yeah,
worst. Um,
yeah, for sure.
but I know that, and the problem is, I think, well, not problem, I think the saving grace is I know that coming in. And so I'm kind of like, cool, I'm just going to watch this and, you know, enjoy it for what it is. And I think I'm judging it on a curve where I'm like, I can sit and watch this and go, looks good. It's not taxing me in the sense of like, I think it thinks it is.
It definitely thinks like it is a smart movie. Like it thinks that it is a clever plot.
Yes. Yes. But it's not. I mean, this
No.
is, no.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. And look, I can go into like a Michael Bay movie and I know what it is, right? Um, I don't know. I mean, this definitely has that sort of like that glitzy fascist beauty of Minority Report,
Mhm.
the design work is okay, like it, but it looks expensive. It all has that sort of like um that obviously that sort of 4K, crispness to the photography, but also just the designs are very black and white, very sleek, very ultra, modern
Mm.
um designs. And I like that. The designs are fine. I don't know how to care about this plot.
Don't.
Like it's not fun. But like you say like so like I can go into I don't know, I can go into like a stupid Transformers movie and just be like it's Michael Bay. A bunch of robots are gonna be bashing each other, in some parks,
Mhm.
or in Shanghai or something. I mean, and I know that if there's like a little bit of a theme, I can follow the plot. That's about the low standards that I have going in. I can follow the plot here. I mean, there are a few themes. I mean, it's not a bad movie.
Do you know what I compare
Um,
this to? For what you're saying, this is like, do you
mhm.
remember we did that 50s block?
Yeah.
That's what this feels like to me. This is the 21st century equivalent of this is like, right, we're going to have like, um, what's his name, like Roy McClure or Troy, one of those kind of actors, sort of like square jawed, kind of sort of like Earth versus the flying saucers, or sort of like Twin Planets, or one of those. It's going to be that kind of thing where it's sort of like the story's kind of thin, and there's going to be sort of a bit of drama, and it's a love triangle or whatever. But it's more about you know the spectacle of seeing what you're seeing on screen or something else, and the plot's kind of thin. That's how this feels to me. It's like this is a 50s film made in 2013, um, and Tom Cruise is your matinee idol and stuff. And the reason I think that is because every other actor is kind of thinks they're in a different film. And what I think is, I think Andrea Riseborough is probably the best, most interesting part of the cast. Like her awkward-ish performance with Cruz, where she's affectionate to him, but there's always a coldness or a sort of an awkwardness between them, which I kind of like. Um, Olga Kurilenko as Julia. Again, she's sort of like, I think she's playing it slightly differently. And then Morgan Freeman turns up and he's like, I'm in a Michael Bay film and I'm going to get to
Yeah.
shoot big fucking guns. And you're like, oh, all right, cool. Like, even his costuming, everything about like he smokes a massive cigar. He's got those like sunglasses on. His earrings are on display. Like Morgan Freeman's turned up to do Tank Girl. Everybody else has turned up to do people have turned up to do a different film. And so yeah, no, that's where I'm like, oh, this is fun. And like, when the moment those people come in and you have Morgan Freeman being whatever the hell he wants to be, I'm like, oh, no, I'm on board with this more so than ever. Like that, it's just kind of funny to watch in that sense. I think this isn't a well-made film, but I kind of feel like I watch it more from like just sort of like I don't know. There's just something about it that I kind of find engaging from a um.
Well, but also you like the Mission Impossible movies.
Mm,
So you
I do.
can take that model and kind of say this is a sci-fi version of it. You know, I know this character. He's been plugged into, a sci-fi plot. I know what I'm getting, it's good fun. It's a solid 2 hour kind of romp, you know. I don't have that. I mean, I've seen a couple of those movies, but I didn't like them and I don't remember anything about them. You know. Um, I remember one had an opera house and a sniper, and I remember just thinking, this is not well done, This looks great,
Yeah.
but like, well, I don't know why I'm watching this. I'm watching this because other people told me to watch it.
Mm,
It's I guess I don't know. I mean, I find this sort of like slick, like you're making this 50s comparison, and I like that comparison. I think it's an interesting comparison. I think the one of the things that defines that post 2000 plot though is like in the 1950s, it's just flying saucers are attacking, like they've hit this city, they've hit that
mm,
city. Let's scramble some jets and fight them, like there's not a lot of twists and turns, right? It's not really a plot heavy,
mm-hmm.
story. It's just kind of episodic, right? I mean, there's a general arc, but there's just going to be a bunch of episodes within that arc. This is one of those sort of like I mean, it's post 2000, so it's sort of like the Matrix effect of like everything's got to be a big twist, right? Is
Yes.
here. the sort of like everything's got to be an epic story with like, multiple twists and multiple arcs and multiple, shifts to the paradigm. That's in full force here.
Hmm.
So that is, I'm not saying that that defeats the 50s parallel, but that's sort of like the pretentiousness of like, of that plot, that it's sort of like, it's like Chris Nolan light. It's like we've taken Chris Nolan, scrubbed it down, made it prettier and more accessible to the masses, and it stars Tom Cruise. Like,
Yeah,
how
no,
could it fail?
I think that's exactly it. I think this thing about the plot twists and stuff. I think comes just um with age. In the sense of age. I mean, like sort of the period it's made in. I think you're right. I think they were just we can't have the plot can't be too straightforward. It's got to be, you know, there's got to be twists. There aren't any twists in this. There's reveals, and you go, "Oh, I was thinking that. That's what I thought
Right.
was going to happen." Like, at no point would I say this has anything that I would say is a twist. It just has reveals that you go, "Oh yeah, that's yeah." It's a shoulder shrug. Even the first time I saw this, I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense. That's his wife. That's fine. I'm good with that." Like, it made sense. Um, I'm looking. I'm just going to find it because I think around this time, there was a sort of there was a push for hey, same year. So I'm thinking there was a push for the kind of these sci-fi kind of films. I mean, I think before this we'd had Live, Die, Repeat, which I actually think is a
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. Thank you, which I really like as well with Emily Blunt, Tom Cruise, but Elysium with Matt Damon,
Yeah.
um, Neil Blomkamp's kind of thing. So around this time, I think there was this kind of focus in on this kind of science fiction film. As you say, so we're going to
Yeah.
have this, you know, scrubbed up, looks amazing, but there's going to be a grunginess to certain parts of it. It was just an aesthetic, I think, that was going on at the time, and I think Oblivion sort of just fits into this thing. Dread came out in 2012, didn't do well, but it has a similar kind of thing of like, right, we're going to scrub this up and do these things. Obviously, a lower budget, but yeah, I don't know. There just seemed to be a period, weirdly, before the MCU massively took off, when there was looking for something. This coincides with Disney doing their big thing, John Carter, Lone Ranger, those kinds of things of like we're going to throw out massive budget kind of creative tries and see what happens. And I just think this is what's happening at this time. There's no major franchises at this point. MCU's about to become massive with you know um Avengers, and Batman's coming to an end, and also I don't know. It just felt like they were trying for something. It's a shame because I hear what you're saying, but I actually kind of like when they were doing this. When I was like, I'm going to the cinema and I'm seeing Oblivion or Elysium and John Carter, and I can actually go and see, kind of great looking but relatively straightforward science fiction films that do something cool, and that's where I feel like this fits into it.
Yeah, I was thinking about, some of those other films too. I don't like Edge of Tomorrow.
Mm,
Um, well, I'm sure we'll talk about it eventually.
yeah.
But I mean, I sort of have a very similar feeling for this as I do Edge of Tomorrow. It's sort of like I don't like Tom Cruise and I think the plot is dumb, but thinks it's smart, you know? Um, and it just kind of leaves me cold. And I think that whole batch of films, like I think they sort of like I'm glad that they're sort of swinging for the fences in terms of like complex stories and reveals and stuff. And I don't mind the sort of like polished aesthetic.
Hmm.
Um, but it's the sort of like it doesn't really make sense, and it's really just an action vehicle kind of, thing. Which I think like Minority Report is sort of similar, but it still has, it works better. He's not as polished, a super ninja action hero, who does everything right, in that movie.
Hmm.
Um, and the movies that I like, that sort of I was thinking like there maybe a little later, but like, Tomorrowland I think is underrated. I think, Ready Player One is really great. Um, Not that those movies don't have faults, but their faults tend to be they're like this batch of movies, right?
Well,
Um,
Tomorrowland. Well, I should say. So it is interesting what you're saying because Tomorrowland. I'm just looking. I actually again film I do like.
mhm.
That's 2015. Edge of Tomorrow is 2014. Um, the other film I was thinking of, Elysium, was 2013. Um, the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the new one, that starts in 2011, and the second one, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, comes out in 2014. There's a real batch of like sci-fi movies around that period that really are sort of trying for things. Sorry, carry on. Apologies.
No, that's true. Um, and I don't know. I mean, I guess they sort of like mostly make me feel like they're fine for what they are, but like they're a lot more pretentious than they are
Mm.
impactful.
Yes. No, I think that's fair. Well, what I would say is, and I think you are 100% right, simply because if we look at um, you and I talking about these films now, you said they're more pretentious than impactful. Cool. Is anybody saying they want, they're going back and going, oh, Elysium, top 10 film, or even Edge of Tomorrow, like, oh, amazing, one of the best. Like these are often forgotten. Tomorrowland flopped massively, which I think
Yeah.
is absolute tragic because it's a really good film. Same with John Carter, like I'm defending it in our book, um, sort of. But I think it's one of those when you sort of go, yeah, these weren't classics, or will but they got overshadowed by a lot of other things as well. Um, we sort of leaked into the sort of the comic book era, which I think sort of which just overrode all this. And I do wonder if they'd get a fairer shake if that wasn't there. But you're right, they're not earth shattering, they're not sort of era defining in that way. But at least they were trying to do
Mhm.
something different, like compared to what had come before. So I'll give them that. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
they're kind of like on most of them are sort of like on par with like iRobot,
yeah,
where
that's
you're
yeah.
like, this isn't what I want, but this isn't bad. Like this is
Mm,
this is slick. This is a vehicle for, Tom Cruise or Will Smith or whatever the actors, bring these
yeah.
plots down, but it's fine. It sort of is what it is, and it's got a few ideas. Um,
Yeah, I think again, you mentioned Ready Player One, which comes out I think towards the end of this is 2018,
mhm.
but like Tron Legacy 2010, Looper 2012, like there is just lots of these films where you go like I mean we were both again sort of slightly the opposite side of things on Looper, which is even I'd say even harder to defend to be perfectly honest than this film. But yeah, no, there's just this weird sort of thing with like slightly um like you say,
Risky.
yeah, they're taking risks, and a lot of them didn't do well. Like they weren't. None of these
Mhm.
are like billion-dollar films. Um, but I kind of appreciate that we had this period of, you know, they were trying to do things. There were directors coming. I mean, who directed this? This is
And big budget sci-fi. I mean,
yeah,
really Villeneuve comes out of this, right? I mean, it's really because
Arrival and
these movies did
yeah,
okay enough that he could do Arrival and then, go from that into
we get Dune.
Dune, right? And Blade Runner,
Mm,
right? Um, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting batch of films, and you're right. I mean, there are these, and but I mean, I put Passengers as a sort of late,
oof, yeah, that was a bad one.
so I think Passengers is a better movie than this.
Oh really?
I
Oh,
do.
I really struggled with that film.
We have to do that someday. I think
Mm,
it's I was taken with it the first time. Despite its edgy content.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are ideas here that I like. I, I don't know. I guess it's just like, so many of those movies I thought why did somebody, like this is not going to do well. Why are we funding this? Why did this get $150 million to make, Elysium or something?
Well, I
Not
mean,
even.
no, I'm looking the same year as when they came out. So at the same year was Pacific Rim, and Pacific Rim did better than Oblivion. And we will talk
Yeah.
about a Pacific Rim at some point because
Yeah.
again, I kind of like Pacific Rim, but it's big and dumb and it's kind of like a wrestling match of a film. But yeah, I think it's yeah, you're right. I mean, it's one of those things, it's one of those weird ones. When I watch this again, when I go back and I look at like Elysium or this or some of the others, there is a part of my brain that sort of says someone sat in an office or in a conference room and said that's the one to make. And did they even look at the plot? And did they go, "Oh no, Tom Cruise is in this. That's the one we're going for." Matt Damon's in this. That's the one we're going for, kind of thing. Like, because I can't believe anybody sat down and read through the plot of this and were like, "Cool, that's going to be a big, that's a mega success right there." That is.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think Cruise takes so much out of this for me.
Mm.
I think his performance is I mean, he's just so Tom Cruise, and he's just he managed to make like the Sam Rockwell character from Moon seem identifiable and likable. I don't know how he manages to be so unlikable. Um,
I think you find him unlikable. Like I'm kind of indifferent to him because I am coming in going, yeah, Tom Cruise character. Like it's again, this is the same to me as watching um a Sylvester Stallone film in the 90s where I'm going, yeah, it's a Sylvester Stallone character. Like there's barely any difference between the character in Cliffhanger and the character in Daylight. They have different jobs and they are doing a different film, but they're pretty much the same. Like there's that sort of Stallone edge to it that's what it's got to be. The same with The Rock. I think The Rock's become almost a meme and a joke for it. But I think there's a lot of it's there's a stage or a point for lots of actors or certain actors where they stop becoming an actor and they
mhm.
become a movie star. And the thing that's when you go, no, you're not here to act and become a character. We now want to see Tom Cruise do this thing. You know what I mean? I now want to see Sylvester's. I don't, like you watch like early Stallone films, like he's trying. Like, you could watch
Yeah.
Rocky and the first Rambo film and you're like, oh, he's trying. They're different characters. Like John Rambo and Rocky Balboa, different characters. Like, you're trying for something. Come back later on, he's still trying with certain things. When there's others when you go like, yeah, there's expendable films and the Rocky film, the Rambo films, kind of the same. And then you go, oh, there's, like this one's again the same thing. Like he's just doing. Oh, it's because I want to see Stallone in a movie. And I think the same goes for a lot of things. And I think this is the Cruise era of doing that. Is like I'm doing Ethan Hunt, and I'm getting paid loads to do it. So now I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be the same thing, and I'm going to do this, and that's it. So
Yeah, but the
I'm kind
difference
of
is,
fine with that.
I mean, I agree with you, and I think what you're saying is accurate. I guess the difference is I don't want to see Tom Cruise in a movie. I can't imagine anyone saying I want to see Tom Cruise in a movie. I mean,
I
if
like
if
Tom
I saw
Cruise.
Tom Cruise in a bar, it just and he wasn't Tom Cruise, he was just acting like this character, I would leave the bar because I would find him so annoying and so just reprehensible from sitting across the room. Just look at this arrogant prick who thinks he walks on water, you know, um, and clearly has nothing to back it up, just such a cocky piece of entitled shit. I mean, he just exudes that sort of like, know nothing, entitled, you know, arrogant, entitled white boy, I mean, you know, from one white boy to another.
Yeah. Um, I'm
You know
kind of
what I'm
fine.
saying? I mean,
I do. No, no, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm just kind of fine with it. I think that's the difference. Is again, I'm coming in and going like, yeah, yeah. If this was, I don't know, you know, I mean, Matt Damon sort of did Elysium, and you go, okay, that's that film. But like, he also then did The Martian, which is
hmm
2015, and 2016. And you go, they're very different films. Like, that's
hmm
the kind of thing I expect Matt Damon to be. He's an actor. Like he'll play different characters and stuff. He'll do things. Um, but like Tom Cruise is just Tom Cruise. So I'm going into this. The best example of when this failed was The Mummy, which he did. He was going to, and I think everything you're saying about him works in certain environments. Like when he's playing Ethan Hunt in the mission, I absolutely, I love those Mission Impossible films. I think they're fantastic fun. I think they're really well done. I think him doing stunts until he kills himself is going to be, the fact we're going to get to see Tom Cruise blown up for real in a film at some point is kind of amazing. I'm fine with all that. It works in that environment, like the Ethan Hunt character or the Tom Cruise as Ethan Hunt is. I'm fine with. He gets to run around and do stuff. When you apply that to certain things, like it works, right? That's an action adventure fantasy film, right? It's espionage. It's sort of like it's led the way. Even redefined Bond. It was that influential. It kind of works here. I think they've still turned it down a little bit, but it works here. But like you say, at one point he falls like 40 feet and through a table, and then gets up and carries on going. And even I'm like, all right, that's kind of funny. Like it makes me chuckle that that's where this film is at. But then they applied it to The Mummy, which was going to be the start of the dark universe. And that film tanked massively. I mean, it's a terrible, terrible film. But it's basically Ethan Hunt fights a mummy. That's what that film is. It's Tom Cruise fights a mummy, and you go, all right, cool. It's not good though. Like it doesn't work because he does come across everything you're saying 100% and more in that film, and it tanked that film because it was not what people wanted, or just didn't work. But I'm kind of still on the verge of going, yeah, but it kind of works in this film. I'm still fine with it being in this film, where like that arrogance and that sort of like he was an ass again. It's like Top Gun,
right?
Him playing Top Gun 1 was him playing
Acting,
right? He was
yeah.
in the Top Gun 2 is Tom Cruise turning up and going, I'm rich enough and influential enough to be able to fly the planes myself, and I'm going to have footage of me flying the planes, and we're going to do this, and we're going to like that's Tom Cruise flying plane. It's not a terrible film. I think it's overrated. But I think that's the difference. Is like he's just Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise in that film. That's the difference,
Yeah,
right?
I couldn't be less interested in Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise.
No, but that's the thing. But I think if you're happy with that,
totally unimpressed with somebody doing their own stunts. Meaningless to me.
I think this is the difference where I'm like,
but you're just saying that's the expectation.
That's the expectation, and that's
right.
exactly it. Where I'm going in, I'm not expecting 1990s or early 2000s Cruise. I'm expecting 2010s Cruise, and I'm going, oh yeah, I know what that is, and I'm fine with that. I know what this film is. I'm not going again. If this was like if Tom Cruise was doing this in Blade Runner 2049, I'd be pissed because I'd be like, no, this doesn't fit. This is a ridiculous concept. Like you'd have the Mummy all over again. But the fact I'm going like, oh, this is a slightly silly 50. That's kind of like so. This is Cary Grant or one of those sort of like 30s, 40s, 50s matinee idols doing their thing and being them, like then I'm fine with it. I'm kind of I'm on its level. I'm meeting it at its level. This is never going to win an Oscar for any of its performances. Maybe for some of its special effects, but like beyond, or its cinematography, maybe like you can say this film's beautiful, but yeah, I think I'm more comfortable saying that like every actor has those films where I'm like, oh, it's just them being them, like. I'd even say like Denzel Washington's reached that stage where he's kind of like, yeah, I've kind of reached a groove with what I can just do, and I'm comfortable with it, and people like it, so I'm just going to do that in whether it's the Equalizer or it's something, I mean, like it's that kind of thing.
I don't know. I agree with you. I just
It's
don't
whether
know
you're
why
willing to.
you don't find him grating. Like I don't know. I mean, even like you talked about the cinematography. I mean, even the cinematography, I'm like, that's a great shot. Don't know why this one building has survived and everything else is a canyon. And, they're flying through a canyon and suddenly they emerge between two skyscrapers. Where was that when you were looking out? I don't know. None of this really makes any sense. It looks expensive. It's like somebody watched Inception and said like, oh, that's a cool special effects. Let's put that in a random sequence. And I'm like, okay, I mean, it looks expensive. I don't know why this area is folding in on itself, but okay. I mean,
Well,
I don't understand. I don't know. I mean, even those shots, I think that has the same sort of like veneer of sort of like fascist beauty, that I'm not against, but that, ultimately there's nothing underneath it. Um, like and then I think like if I want this, why don't I just watch, Roland Emmerich, if what I want is just oh wow,
visuals.
there's a canyon, in a city.
What I'm interested about the term fascist beauty as well. I'm going to come back to that in a sec. But what you're saying, one of the things that I find interesting that does bother me. I can just sit and look at this film and I'm like, cool, it looks great. Like I've got this in 4K, I watch it and it does look great. It moves really smoothly. I think there's certain shots they've used the drones, they've used all the bits, and I think there's some aerial footage that's just fantastic. I agree that you'll see like a stadium and you're like, oh, that seems to have survived and nothing else has. And then not too far from it is the top of the Empire State Building. Um, the literally the top of it, and and then I'm
Where
like,
he
cool,
has his memories,
yeah,
you know.
which is coincidental, fine. But I also then think like, cool, what's happened to all those other buildings? Because that's not even
Mhm.
like the tallest building in New York. It's all like,
Right.
and there'll be other things, and like, what's underneath this? Like, does this not make you want to
What is
go?
all this ground? Where did this all come from?
Yes, that there is that. That's what kind of bothers me. I'm like, cool. How thick is it, and where's it come from? And if this has come from somewhere else, is there a big hole somewhere else where all this dirt's come from to go to? So yes, there is that. Where I'm like, the topography of this doesn't kind of make sense.
Yeah, I mean the same thing's true with like the bridge where it's like, oh, okay, and like it's a cool shot, but I don't know what's
But
being
that's
said
the
here. I don't
point.
know what the mechanism is.
But there isn't one. This is the thing. Like
Right.
you and I are sat here scratching at the surface of this and finding that there's very little behind it. And that is the case. There is very little behind this. But you're not supposed to do that. As you just said, they've just gone like with Roland Emmerich when he's going like, I'm gonna blow up the White House, and you go, cool. Is it gonna look good? Oh, it's gonna look amazing. You go, cool, do it. You're gonna do it, and everyone will go, that looks amazing. This is the same, right? Can we have Tom Cruise on a scrambler bike going over, the Washington Bridge or whatever it's going to be, or like riding past the top of um, the Empire State Building? Yes, we can do that. Is it going to look cool? It's going to look really cool. Good. It's enough that people recognize it and go, "Oh, this world's messed up because this is what, you know, this is something I recognize in a post-apocalyptic environment." That's kind of the point, isn't it? That's all it is. It's not there. It's shorthand. All of this is shorthand. It's not there to tell you a theme. It's not there to tell you a part of the narrative of how it got there. It's simply, I mean, this is no different to seeing the end of the Planet of the Apes, the original Heston one, of him
Right.
walking down a beach and finding the Statue of Liberty sticking out of a beach. You can go, hang on, where's that come from? Because that was offshore last time I
Right.
knew. Like, how's that there?
Well,
It's
and
exactly the
literally the
same thing.
Statue of Liberty torch is in the middle of a canyon now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you're right that ending a Planet of the Apes is, doesn't make a lot of sense. Um, but that's
But
the
people
like
laud
reveal
that.
at the ending.
Yes, true. But
Right.
it's
I mean,
still,
that's the like 2000 AD, twist at the end of the Future Shock, like
hmm
yeah, it doesn't totally make sense, but it's a shocking little, twist at the end. This kind of is like, right, hold my beer. We can put six of those in. None of them are going to make any more sense or make sense together, but it's a cool visual.
that's it. I think you've just that's it. But that's it. It's a cool
We're
visual.
saying the same thing. The difference is like you like it and I don't.
Yeah, that's literally it. It's
Yeah.
literally I'm sat there going like, this is a cool photo album.
Hmm.
That's cool. That's good. It's a good shot. I like that. I like the designs. I think they're sort of like, it's almost like this is one of the things that's bothered me. I've realised this. It crystallised for me watching this film actually, and it's bothered me for years, and it's kind of always been there. You said about the fascist beauty, like everything's very white. This is a very, and well, it is. Let's be clear, apart from Morgan Freeman, but also every sort of like everything's almost like an Apple iPod, isn't it? This is the Apple
Hmm.
version of technology. Like the little ship he flies is like the iShip, and
Hmm.
the building they work in is like it's like an I apartment and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah,
The
it's like
poor,
if Steve Jobs designed the Frank Lloyd Wright building.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah,
the iPod thing is dead on.
yeah. And one of the things is that when I see the flooring in these places, I'm like, that looks really like there's a major slip hazard in that kind
Hmm.
of like that looks really impractical as a place to live.
Hmm.
Everything's so smooth. Everything's such a. I'm like, cool. You must slip over in that place all the time. Like keeping it
Yeah.
clean from stains must be near impossible. Like that's ridiculous. Um, but one of the
How do you
things,
tell who's a homeowner in the
yeah,
audience?
but
Yeah.
one of the
Getting
this
the
is
grout out from between those tiles is
yeah.
gonna be hell in the morning.
How often that Victoria must have spilt a coffee on that sort of like LED screen thing she's got, and it's just
Mm.
like, hang on, no, this is kind of annoying. Everything's too
Well, I
clean.
thought that
Everything's
about the pool, where it's like
oh
this
that
looks
pool,
so beautiful,
yeah.
but like it was this the most efficient function? Like you're gonna go toppling off over the sides, like it's an
Eh,
infinity pool.
yeah. Anytime water's around a place like that, like things are going to start
Yeah.
going, not going, like nothing stays transparent like that for that long. It's ridiculous. So but this obviously in comics, whenever I see sort of like they go, we've got this, they do it in Judge Dredd does it all the time, and I think like there's been other comics like they do it in Marvel all the time. We've got to show something futuristic, and they do it in cartoons. If you ever watch, you go back and watch I was watching one of the early '90s Spider-Man cartoons, and it showed like Doc Ock's lab. All the floors metal.
Hmm.
And again, I was like, this is really like, who does that? Where like the floors like put together like metal plates and all sorts of, not grated metal plates like we see in the industrial sci-fi thing of the 70s, but like just smooth metal steel plates. And it appears in cartoons all the time. And I'm like, this is a trope now that really grinds my gears. Any environment where I'm like, that's a living environment or a working
Hmm.
environment, I'm like, that's so insanely impractical. Like oh no, but it has this aesthetic and it looks beautiful. I'm like, no, 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 it's stupid. This is stupid. Like, stop it. Like, carpet, rugs. Like, you want, your feet are going to be cold or something's going to like you. This is this. You're going to walk in with muddy boots. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, think about these things. And this film had that where I'm like, everything's really clean, but they're trying to go but he's dirty all the time.
Yeah.
Everything's covered in black soot and dust, but like everything's immaculate. Like it really starts that bothers me a lot in this film. But there's other films that have done it as well that I'm just like the iPod environment of this era is irritating. That's
Yeah,
it.
and I think
Rant over.
the iPod thing is particularly apt. I mean, I
Mm,
think that is certainly the kind of like aesthetic. And for me, but I mean, for me, there's kind of like fascism to, how clean and beautiful and white everything is and well lit.
mm,
And, I'm not immune to the charms of that kind of aesthetic. Um, but I think when it dovetails with the sort of like hollow presentation of the characters, or the hollow plot, the hollow acting of Tom Cruise, I mean the whole presentation of the macho white guy who can do anything and, breaks the rules. I mean,
mm.
the breaking the rules thing really irritates me. Like, I know that obviously the twist is it's bad guys who put these protocols in place, but and he's got to break the rules for the plot to work. But I always think like, we set up rules for reasons, right? Like, a little bit of breaking the rules goes a long way. And he just seems so completely unaccountable to anyone, including, his teammate who's back up there. That, it just seems so over the top in terms of its presentation of just a hollow entitled character. And so that I think dovetails with that sort of like fascist aesthetic where I think like, okay, I'm not immune to the charms of this aesthetic, but there's no there, right? I mean, this isn't
Hmm.
being used to examine anything, and it just starts to worry me,
Well,
when like, okay,
hmm.
another handsome white guy, who does not follow the rules, and is going to be the white savior, um, everything's about him. I mean, even the other survivors, the scavengers, Morgan Freeman. I mean, they're like, basically, you're the Messiah. Only you can do this. We're not even going to hold you prisoner. We're going to let you find your own way because you're so fucking important. I don't know. All that stuff just fits into this sort of
Well,
entitled
let's go to this
dick
talk because
feeling.
there is this. So the breaking of the rules, or not sticking with the rules, is an interesting point because it's clearly there as a reason. It becomes a function of the plot because
Mhm.
that's what Morgan Freeman's character as this scavenger has seen. Like he's seeing this thing of like he recognizes that basically, but they don't want him to be a savior per se. They don't see him as a savior. They see him as almost being they see him as basically him being like a Trojan horse. They want him to be able to access things to get into the Tet so that they can destroy it. So they don't really, but like there's this thing of humanity, isn't it? This is the other thing. It's this idea of like, oh, when it's explained what really happened, that the Earth was attacked, and then the Tet arrived, and the doors opened, and this is again, this brings a sort of a chuckle to my lips when I think this. Morgan Freeman describes this thing. He says the doors opened, and then you came out, thousands of you, and I was like, I'm so glad they didn't do a flashback scene of like thousands of CGI Tom Cruises pouring out of pouring out of a ship because it would look so ridiculous. But that's what it was. Like he's a clone, and the original is dead, and um, there were thousands and thousands, tens and thousands of these soldiers that were all Jack, Jack Harper or whatever it is. Um, but this one's different. Like this is he's not just a clone soldier. He is humanity. He picked up a book and studied it, and he's got this sort of like ramshackle cabin in the woods where he's collected the remnants of a lost civilization. He's got a stuffed teddy of a gorilla and a fridge for some reason, and books and paintings and so on and so forth. So this thing of breaking the rules is it's a part and parcel of what they're trying to show is that like you're either a clone and you follow the rules, which is more fascistic. This is the thing about individualism again. Either you're a drone, like the drones that he is repairing, and you just follow the rules, or you're a human and you set yourself apart and you have an imagination and you can do this and you can do that and you dream. That's another thing, this thing about dreaming. So it's there. So again, actually, I said like again, it's shorthand. It's kind of schmaltzy, but again, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's not. It's derivative. I've seen it before. It's not new. And again, so as I'm saying with this film, like it's kind of paint by numbers. Um, but because I'm expecting it, I'm like, yeah, all right, that's fine. This is shorthand to tell me that he is, you know, he has humanity. Where Victoria is more focused on leaving the planet, and she's more about following the rules and being an effective team, and she sort of is the compliant one. And so there's almost that sort of, you say, if you're going to say sort of fascistic, she's the treacherous one that's willing to give them up to the to the perceived enemy in order to sort of get what she wants, where he's willing to sacrifice because he's more human. He's tapped into his humanity. So it follows those rules. It does that thing of it's shorthand. I'm fine with it. I would like it more if there was a conflict about it. The conflict was a bit more played out with him struggling with this thing and he felt guilt for having hidden this thing away. I mean, even, someone said this film is basically Wall-E, and it kind of is because he even presents it with like grass in a metal
Mhm.
tin, and she just throws it off the edge. We can't have this, and you're like, what? Why not? You don't know about the toxics, and because she says you don't know what's out there, the toxins and the chemicals, and I'm like, he's out there every day, like he's
Right.
rolling around in this shit. Like if
Yeah.
you're worried about grass, you should really have some problems with what's coming back on his boots. Like,
Right. There's going to be decon,
yeah,
at the very least. Yeah. No, I thought that too. It's really, you know, exaggerated, for to get
it's
that
shorthand,
scene.
but it's shorthand.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we've got to do this, we've got to do this, got to do this. So again, I don't know what your thoughts are on the cabin and all that kind of stuff. Then and the collecting the books and the records and the back to
Yeah. I mean,
nature kind of stuff.
I don't know. I mean, it's such a cliche. I mean, like, and, I mean, it's like to me, nothing works in this movie. Like, you, for me, like you're saying that like he is the clone who's an individual and he discovers these books and his humanity and I know that that's there, but it's like that cabin is just the most generic kind of cabin, the shots of him looking out on these beautiful mountains, they're beautiful, but they don't mean anything. It's just like, yep, that's Tom Cruise in that landscape. I mean, we've positioned our cardboard cutout, to stand in front of a geyser, like, isn't that geyser pretty? Yeah, it's pretty, but I mean, like, I don't believe that that cardboard cutout has rediscovered his humanity because you put him in this setting, There's no richness of thought. There's no, he's not sitting, you could put him with books, but I don't believe that he's read a book.
Mm.
Um, I mean, it's this kind of problem. And, and I feel that that sort of like, there's a difference between the fascist aesthetic and the fascist kind of messages. And it's true that, you're saying like it's really he's anti-fascist that he goes against that. But fundamentally, he's the he's the white hero who breaks the rules. And, fascism is always about, sort of the importance of the strong man
Hmm.
over actually the letter of the law, right? So, I mean, yeah, he's supposed to be this breaking of the rules kind of character, but what I really get is he's a kind of strong man, I'm going to do what I want to do sort of character. I don't get the sense that this is part of some slow spiritual discovery of, the joys of being Walt Whitman, living a simple life. I just get the sense of that's a cardboard cutout in a, in a natural landscape. I don't know where it is. I don't know, I don't know where it is relative to the Empire State Building, I mean, that's fine, but um it just feels like this is the scene where we're told that he likes books. This is the scene where, we're told that he longs for this kind of, you know, simple human lifestyle or something. But he's not a human.
No,
I mean, that's the problem is he's not, I mean, this is not a story of like a replicant struggling with their humanity, right? This is not a story of a clone discovering his humanity. It kind of has tropes of that. It kind of, wants to kind of hit those buttons, but it sort of checks those boxes without showing you any of it
you
or
need
feeling any of it.
so if this was a let's just say this was a non um matinee idol actor, right? Let's just put it as that. So this was being played by someone who was actually doing it as a character. So they were going to give you that depth. Okay. Can't think of anyone right now off the top of my head, but let's just say what I think this film is lacking. You're basically coming in to the end of Act One. You kind of need that. You need those scenes of him being the drone, and you need to sort of see the start of the cracks of those rules being broken, and you need to see the full arc, don't you, of him being going away, doing the job, coming home, doing it by the sort of the letter of the regulations, and then starting to sort of question that something sort of you need that first crack, I suppose, or him finding that area and building that cabin. The fact that like he's been doing this for some time, yeah, it feels like you've come in late, and because you've come in late, you haven't seen the journey. You're just kind of going, "Oh, yeah, he's done this." So I'm telling you, this is what happened, without, it's the thing of show don't tell. And I know they're not telling us, but they're sort of showing us in sort of it's shorthand. That's what I'm saying. You said it's cliche, but it's also shorthand. It's like he is the all-American hero because he likes to be out in the countryside, in his cabin next to a lake with classic books, and we're going to quickly flick through the records, not CDs or anything, but we've saved LPs because they're the best, apparently. And we're going to show you all the classic LPs. You're going to see sort of like jazz LPs and Pink Floyd, and you're going to see this, you're going to see that. Like all of that is cliche stuff. It's all shorthand. The baseball
Yeah,
cap kind of weirds me out as well. Like he has this New York
yeah,
Yankees baseball cap that is in very, very good condition, but apparently should be at least 60 years old.
yeah,
Like, I don't know where he
yeah.
found that and stuff like that. Where I'm like, oh, you found this baseball cap that's in very good condition.
Where did you find the albums?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, there's buildings under the ground, under
right.
the soil. Like you obviously goes to that one library, which is where he sort of has the first confrontation. But
But they're in great shape for being, in a box in a cabin, left alone for
the elements,
most of the time.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
none of them should work.
no, I mean, and but the thing is, like, I was thinking of like, what was that environmental movie from the 70s that we did?
Silent running.
Yeah, Silent Running. Like Silent Running has so many just, I mean, scenes of, Dern just sitting there, struggling with his space. There's nothing like that here.
Mm.
There's just Tom Cruise cardboard cutout, with his albums. Now, you mentioned the cap. The cap irritates me too. What irritates me more is the stadium where, like you think about where the movie's heart is, okay? The movie doesn't know what that scene with what the cabin is supposed to represent. It's checking the box. The movie's heart is not in that scene, right? There's no him sitting around like, Dern. Um, but when he's in a stadium, the movie, swells the lights and sounds of a football match, like the important thing is that we've lost American football.
Yeah, but again, it's shorthand.
Books are a thing you collect, right? They're a thing you collect. They're a thing that you
Yeah, but
put with a
again,
character to have him be a human and sensitive type. What's really important is fucking memories of a great football game.
yeah, but you're saying that, but what you're thinking, the way that that's being presented in here is again, that's Americana. Like it's not the individual. This is the thing. I think you're seeing this as the individual when he is trying to represent humanity. This is what Morgan Freeman says that he sees in him. He's not remembering the game. Well, he is, but he's the kind of thing. It's more than that. He's remembering or has a memory or sort of the experience of the game. Of like, I love football. It's It's the Americana. It's the great sport of America. Like it's a community thing. That's the point. That's what it's trying to sort of say to you. It's not just like, oh, he remembers this game. It's like, oh no, it was part. It was being part of something. That's his humanity. Like we had a shared experience and all that other stuff. That's what that part's trying to say. And it's trying to have its cake and eat it. Like it's showing you the books and the LPs, and it's sort of going, here's art and culture. We've got to save that because that's important. Even showing the saving the painting at the end for Julia, which then gets a wooden frame made out of twigs. That's culture. That's the human imagination, but also there's sport and other things. Like it's all about elements of what they're trying to present of this sort of the lost elements of humanity. That's I think the point to me. And this did bring to look. I'll let you sort of respond to that, and then
But don't you think that he seems like such a hollow, just kind of like bro dude who, misses football and misses, like when he thinks about what humanity has lost.
yeah,
He's like,
but
well,
that's
I
fine.
used to go to the top of the Empire State Building and it was cool to look out of it. Like, man, that sucks, man, that we can't fucking do that
Yeah,
anymore,
but
man. That
right,
sucks. Like, Remember the gridiron? Yeah, we used to gather, watch some
But they're
killer
trying to make
games
him blue
together.
collar. He's
Oh,
a
a book.
blue,
Yeah,
but he's a
that's
blue.
cool.
But they're trying to make him like a kind of a. We've said like, he's meant to be a blue collar everyman. That's what this is trying to tell you. They can't have him. He
Tom
quotes.
Cruise is supposed to be a blue collar
Yeah, like
everyman.
no, I'm not saying the casting's great. I'm just saying that's what they're trying to tell you.
Okay.
Because he then says how he sort of read the story and he mentions his whole sort of thing at the end, doesn't he? About everyone dies, and it's about how you die well. He gives this sort of kind of like quote, and again, it's I've read this book, so he's to show he is reading those books and he's learning from them. But this is the part that's missing. Instead of having him just sort of stood there listening to the music out next to the field, like, yeah, you should have him reading those books. Have him read Shakespeare. Have him read, Aristotle or Plato, or have him read something like where you go, oh, okay, that's, you know, that is, it could be awakening something in him and his humanity. It should be. This should be almost like a robot breaking its programming. That's
Yeah.
what the first part of the film should be, but it's not because you've turned up and he's broken his program. Like this is Crichton being able to say Smeghead, but
On
before
day
you've
one.
gone on day one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, God, I just keep coming back to Tom Cruise, man. Like I
that's
just
fine.
I can't buy him in this
There's
role.
there's a locality element to this, and again, so there's we mentioned Roland Emmerich. There's a ever since 1996 when um um Independence Day came out, which, to be fair, is a film we will do one day. And again, I begrudgingly enjoy that film.
Yeah.
There's a moment in that film at the end when they figured it out and they've got the virus and stuff, and it goes around the world like, "This is how you beat them." And there's two British pilots, and they're in Iraq or somewhere like that, and they're like with some Middle Eastern pilots, and it says like, this is the Americans have come up with something, and one of them says it's about bloody time, and it's kind of like, oh, we were just sat around waiting for the Americans to save us, right? And so there's this idea of like the American thing in this. So this is set in what would have been New York, I'm assuming, because that's where he is based. There's these scavengers led by Morgan Freeman and all that sort of stuff based out of this. I'm going, cool, all right, that's fine. So the locality must have a memory triggering effect in the first place. He has a link with the Empire State,
Mm-hmm.
cool. So what happens if this was based, so the aliens haven't learned enough to be like, oh shit, shouldn't put him there. But does this mean there's like Tom Cruises in like Australia
Mm-hmm.
and like the
Yeah.
Middle East and
Oh yeah.
China doing the same? And they're all, so what are they? Like, they must have so when all this goes tits up at the end and the Tet is destroyed,
Mhm.
are there loads of like little Tom Cruises all over the world going like, oh, that's gone wrong.
Yeah, that's right. All
What happens
on
now?
those little stations,
Yeah, there's loads of Victorias.
elevated.
Like
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for
they all
sure.
starved. They all starved to death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, I mean I think that's pretty clear. But he's the good one,
Yeah.
I guess because
But
he found a book,
I don't know.
I mean,
But there must be like only is it only Americans that survive? The rest of humanity were destroyed, but there's only a small event of
but
like Americans
I
left.
don't understand. That is implicit, but I don't understand like what has happened to the world. I mean, like we're told that aliens have, invaded, we see this flashback, which, this terrible, terrible, terrible sequence with this flight recorder, which apparently just is really, they've confused a flight recorder for like a tape recorder, and it really just like plays,
Yeah.
what was going on in the cockpit. Like that's it, right? And there's no telemetry. None of that's important. It's just a big box that does what
It's a
your
big cassette
iPhone does.
recorder. You just press play and record at the same time, and that's when you take off, and that's it, isn't it? That's just what happens.
Yeah, I think that's the way it works. Why
Yeah.
not? Especially on a spaceship. I mean, like I like the idea that they eject the pods and
Hmm.
there are things in this that are working, but I don't understand what's going on. So it's like they encountered this alien, object out by Titan, and then it took those two astronauts in, very sort of like Star Trek, the motion picture style, this
Hmm.
giant object they go into, that's fine. And then, this is as sort of an AI. There's no element of, there's no organic aliens here. And then it said, "Man, I'm going to fly to Earth, blow up its moon, and start stealing Earth's resources." Okay, I guess those resources are largely water, and blowing up the moon is supposed to have been like a destabilizing event. The point of it is to like kill most of the humans in the, cataclysmic earthquakes and,
Hmm.
things that followed. Okay, I guess, except that seems to have like randomly teleported all of the uh, continents around. Like there are canyons in New York. I mean, I don't understand what's happened. And most of the oceans have been drained. Like we don't see, we see a lake. It
Yeah.
looks cool with, I always like images of like dried up lakes with like abandoned ships and stuff. That looks cool. Where is that lake? What like is that? I mean, do all the oceans, we see these things sucking up water at about what looks like sea level? I mean, have all the oceans been sucked up? Like, is this the most efficient way to get water? I mean, like, I don't understand what's happened to the planet. So, you're right that like we don't see, you know, Tom Cruise in Australia or whatever. But I mean, like, we don't see Tom Cruise. Shouldn't they be out in the middle of the Pacific and the Atlantic monitoring the last bit of the water suck up? No, they're overland. I don't know what's happened. I don't know
Mm.
what's going on in this movie.
But it doesn't. This is that thing I've said to you. Like for the people making this film, doesn't matter.
Right.
That's
Well, what
not.
matters is the twist. What matters
Yes.
is, it's a Tom Cruise action uh feature that has the twist from Moon, that ends like Independence Day, Um,
Yeah.
where could we go wrong?
Yeah. That's it. I mean, I think but I think this. I think you're asking. And I agree that this film could have been so much more. And I think you can cut bits out and you could sort of rejiggle it and stuff. But it's what you're coming in for, isn't it? It's that thing of coming back to saying it's what are you coming in this film for? Like I think I'm quite comfortable meeting on its own terms and going like, this is what it is. It looks fine. It looks great, but it's doing this and this. If you're expecting it to do any more or to start asking questions or answering questions, then you're in for like a poor time because it's not. This is not going to give you that level of thing. It's just going to sort of
But
go, yeah, I'm not interested and move on.
but don't you think like, in those twists and stuff, like this plot of like,
We
everything
still,
is wrong, sort of
can we,
Philip K. Dick light
yeah, but it's
kind of
not, is it?
thing, like
We
yeah.
need to stop calling them twists because they're not twists. They're just reveals.
Okay. I mean,
Because a twist, as you said, would do exactly as you said. Like would be like, oh, everything you thought you knew was wrong. For the characters, it's a twist. For the viewer, it's just going, yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. Like
right.
like there's no. I have never watched this film and not been able to go, well, those scavengers are clearly people that are left behind. Like it was just I don't know what maybe I was just sort of I don't know, but I always thought that was obvious even for the first time I watched it. Like there are no twists in this film. It's the biggest one that's the most interesting thing to me as a reveal rather than a twist is what is inside the Tet.
Hmm.
Is that there is
Mm-hmm.
no as you said, there is no biological alien. This is all it's all mechanical. It's all inorganic. It's a computer. It's an AI at the heart of this. And is this doing it for something on a I like that. I like the fact that there's a kind of an element of going like, we don't know what the hell this is. Is this doing something for another species on a distant planet? Is this kind of like is this it? Is it just sucking things up? Like we don't know. We don't really know what Sally or the Tet is. It's never explained. And I kind of like that element, but it's not a twist or anything. It's just a reveal again where you go like, oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of do too, but like, I mean, this is a movie where Tom Cruise runs out of ammo and pulls out a handgun and downs a pod with a likely shot. I mean, there are just like this movie always goes for like the worst version of itself.
Yeah,
Uh and
I'll go
with
before you go that. I'll go you one better. There's
Okay.
a scene in this where he runs up and pulls the power cord out of the front of one of the
Mm-hmm.
drones
Mm-hmm.
whilst it's shooting. So yeah, no, you are right on
Yeah,
that front.
I thought about that scene. And I was like, yeah, I'll give that one a pass, but like it's not great. Yeah, I mean, the gun one, the pulling a handgun to down a drone really bothers me. The bubble gum really bothers me. And then you're talking about like he enters the tet and it's like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, right. So then of course there's another twist, you know, of oh, it's not really the woman in the pot. And this whole time I'm thinking they're scanning him. They surely know who's in that pod, right? They're very suspicious of what he's doing. They know he's lying. The whole
yeah,
time I'm thinking, like, you can analyze vocal patterns. It's crystal clear he's lying. They show he's lying, but they've still allowed him onto the ship. And then he has this, like, ridiculous speech before he
right.
detonates, that's like, I mean,
What
does any of this work?
again? I'll go. No, this whole thing at the end kind of bothers me, and this is no the reveal of again of when it pulls Morgan Freeman out, and they're like, "That's not the survivor you promised us," and I'm like, "No, no shit." Like again, why would he bring his wife up here? That's if anyone thought that he was, then you're stupid. Like this is none of this is well done in the sense of like none of the twists, none of it's hidden. It's not well that structurally wise and written wise not good. All right, it's all obvious. What bothered me in this bit is in several instances we have seen that this alien thing is ruthless, absolutely
Mhm,
ruthless. Right? When Victoria previously was kind of sort of like was willing to sort of drop Jack and um, uh, Julia in it, all right? One of the drone turns up and just blows her away.
mhm,
No problem, all right? We got 1,000 clones of you ready to go. We can just wipe some memory and have a new one put in the morning. Not a problem.
mhm,
Carry on. So this thing does not care. When Jack enters the Tet in his ship, he's got two drones either side of him, guns ready, ready to blow him out of the sky.
right.
The moment Morgan Freeman steps out of that thing, where are those drones? Why don't they just go
Uh-huh.
done, move on?
Yep. Absolutely. Why does he have to land and have this like,
Yeah.
triumphant speech before he detonates this? The whole time they could just gun him down. Why do they even want him to come to the tat? To
So
bring the girl who you've
so
already established is
okay.
disposable.
So there is something in this, and it's kind of hidden. It's not obvious. Again, bad writing, I think. Because I would also, you said why does he have to land? I would go a little bit further. Why is there a landing pad in there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing else ever uses it.
Well, it's like Star Trek the motion picture where it's like you have a great area for people to meet V'ger.
Yeah.
Why do you have that? Like, why is there this great, meeting area around the central computer?
Because Vija knew. No, I'm not going to defend that film. I do love
I
that
mean,
film, but yeah, yeah.
I do
But
love it
yeah,
too, but
you are right. But one of the things about this, so there's again, they keep talking about throughout the film, are you an effective team? And this goes back to that flashback, doesn't it? Because again, in the cockpit, they'll be like, we're an effective team. Are you an effective team? And they keep saying, yes, we're an effective team, especially Victoria, because basically she fancies Jack and she wanted to take him away from his wife. And that was clear from this flashback of like, why her awkwardness with him, which is kind of interesting. But when he's flying up to the Tet, he makes a point of saying we would be a more effective team. And so I think that the
right.
again doesn't make a great deal of sense. I'm not saying it makes
No,
any
it
better
doesn't.
sense, but I think they're going like, oh, cool. So we can wipe your mind and introduce her as your partner, and we'll carry on from there. I'm
Ah,
like,
okay.
we'll introduce her as the new partner, get rid of the
Right.
Victoria, and we'll introduce the Julia as your partner
Your new
and
partner
your new
from
partner.
going
And
forward.
yes, that's the idea. But it doesn't. But then even then, it's like, well, what? Oh, hang on. Well, I'm still sort of struggling with a little bit of this. Going, well, this I don't, if this has worked for 60 years,
Right.
then at this point, I'm going, like, well, it's worked for 60 years. I'm not going to worry about this. No, fine, just kill her. This whole ending does feel so sort of drawn out
Mm.
and um,
Stagey.
yeah, this whole thing of having to, of all the time, I know this thing of having to introduce this speech about dying well and holding a bridge and all this other stuff. That stuff is so poor. That stuff pisses me off because I'm like, oh no, this is all. This is the what you've said. This is the fifth. Well, I'm saying this is like that 50s machismo, isn't it? Like, we're going to have
Hmm.
this great speech at the end of all this and why humanity is great and the sacrifices being made.
Except the speeches are better in the 50s.
Yes.
I mean, they actually work in the 50s for the most part, you know. Um, yeah,
Well, but
and
you should
there are a
mirror
lot
it.
of 50s movies that don't have that,
But this is the thing.
surprisingly.
But you should mirror this thing. This is one of the things that kind of irritated me. Not irritated, but like it was obvious watching it this time. This whole speech is about again the bravery, the sacrifice. It talks about I forget the name of the person he mentions, but this thing about um this character in this Greek tragedy or Greek story that
Yeah, it's Roman history.
held this bridge.
Horatius.
Horatius, thank you. Yeah, held the bridge, and then was all about it's not about we all die, but it's about dying well. And so I'm like, all right, cool. But then surely you should be sort of they almost want to mirror that with this all the people coming out and they're about to get he talks about against immense odds and you see the drones come over the hill to try and start taking out the people that survive the survivors.
Conveniently, right at that moment,
Yeah,
right?
which is fine, but
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm fine with that because them coming over the hill looks cool, fine, right? The part that is though that they then go, get inside, run, and I'm like, no, no, no. What you should have is one of
The
them. You got um your man from Game of Thrones. Um, he should be like going, I'm going to hold these off. Like this should be that one man thing. This is where it should be juxtaposed of
right,
sacrifice. They're sacrificing themselves up in the spaceship. He's willing to sacrifice himself down there. They're working as an effective team to take down the Tet. And he should be the one that's holding them off to save everybody else. And then they collapse. And he's like,
right.
able to. But it doesn't. They just.
But that would be illustrating its own point and being aware of its own point.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant because this is just a Tom Cruise vehicle. So what's relevant is he's the white savior who saves them. All of those survivors, the scavengers, are utterly irrelevant.
Mm. Mm.
They're here to serve the white savior plot of, can you imagine being Victoria and being like, I'm trying to evacuate Earth. We're trying to go someplace. You keep disappearing every day for 6 hours to hang out, at a log cabin secretly that you're not telling me about, even though I'm your partner. You're constantly, flying up to the radiation zone and veering off at the last minute and going off radar. Like, you are a danger to us. Like, there is nothing charming about this. This is
But
like,
but then she should threaten it. But then have that conversation. She should stand up. Like she gets irritated with him, and this is one of the things where I think
right,
she ends up. The thing is, she starts off as being a little awkward, and clearly having her own directive. Like she's the goody, in that sense
a
of
little by the book.
by the
Yeah.
book and all this other stuff, right? And she ends up becoming that sort of the job's worth. Oh, it's more than my job's worth to do this. She
Mm.
won't go down to the land. She won't accept the grass. All this other stuff, right? So she's being set up to be the sort of like fastidious sort of rule follower. But at no point does she challenge him and go, Jack, what you're doing, as you said, is an absolute risk to the mission at hand.
Hmm.
We are becoming an ineffective team because you keep doing this and you're putting not just us, but the human race at risk. Like she needs to challenge him on that then to have him then say to do something or for him to think about it. But this all comes back to this thing about him being like a good drone repairman at the beginning. Show them as a very effective team at the beginning. Him sort of falling away and breaking away, and him being challenged from both sides. You again, this comes back to she needs to be challenging him to be trying to bring him back in line, and then things he is finding, and Julia or Morgan Freeman are the ones trying to pull him into, rebelling, the resistance, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the sci-fi version of like, there is a white dude with a monster truck, and he's married to a woman who's like, Jack, like we got these kids here, I'm going fishing. Well, I'm taking care of the kids. Like, you agreed not to go fishing. Sorry, baby, the rules don't apply to me. Puts on his sunglasses and looks cool as he cruises away in that monster truck, taking giant risks as he's driving at, 80 miles an hour, you
Hmm.
know. But he's supposed to look cool while he's doing it, because he's the hero. We're supposed to ignore the fact that, like, no, this is all just irresponsible. The movie thinks he's the cool dude, but, he's not. He encounters some other people, decides to save them, sacrifices himself at the end with this great speech. I mean, how is this not just a dick?
Because it's Tom Cruise.
I mean, you
um,
know,
no, I know what you're saying. The film doesn't do well at framing him as anything else than just being a pain in the ass. I mean, if I was if he was a real worker and he was, and I was his boss, I'd be incredibly irritated by him, which is where Victoria's at. Like Victoria's like trying to manage him, and he's sort of getting increasingly irritated with him. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just
the
I don't.
dying well thing irritates me because that is the central question of Greek philosophy, right?
Mhm.
Like day one of philosophy 101 is like the ancient Greeks frequently said that the point of philosophy is to learn how to die well, that everybody dies. So, like, there are a number of places you could get this from, right? You don't have to get this from this random Roman book, right? Which he has not absorbed any of these lessons. Yeah, the whole point of all of this is I can quote one passage from a translated into from Latin into rhyme, passage. There's no engagement with that material, right? I mean, it's like this is the book, this is the movies where like, you know, the copy of Shakespeare is representative of all civilization, right? And you're like, right, you've quoted two lines from it. Are you aware of what that play's about? Have you, no, no, not important, right? It just matters that it's a book. So we have these kind of like cribbed lines, but they're cribbed by like some, Hollywood guy
But the
who,
whole film's cribbed. The whole
yeah,
film
that's
is
true.
cribbed. That's the point. That's the thing. This film is kind of like bigger themes in montage, isn't it? Like this doesn't break down. Like this film is not a good thematic, examination of anything. Like this is not, um, going to challenge anyone. This is a sci-fi sort of action movie at its heart.
Yeah.
That's it doesn't think it is, but it is. I can imagine. I've not listened to the commentary on this, but Joseph Kosinski. I'm going to see what else he's done. By the way, I just get that feeling that you're like, I think you thought this was. I can imagine the director's commentary being a lot more, you know, like, well, this is
Deep.
what we were aiming for. Yeah, this shot represents this within philosophy. We were thinking this, and you're going like, I know what you're thinking. It's that as we've sort of said about Zack Snyder. Like you'll sit down and talk with him and go, yeah, guy's got some good ideas. All right, I can see where he's going with these themes. And then you see the film and you're like, yeah, dude, forgot those on the way to work on that day. Like I feel the same about this. Um, we said about Top Gun Maverick.
Hmm.
Yeah, he
Same
directed.
director.
He directed that.
Yeah.
He also directed Tron Legacy, which we also mentioned. So,
Yeah, and
um,
I like Tron Legacy, even though it's a
yeah,
mess. I mean,
yeah, it is.
it's certainly a mess. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna give me a mess of a movie, at least like that, that is just so intensely beautiful. Just
It
so.
is. It
I mean,
is.
it's just like it needs to just be a music video,
Yeah. Well,
Um,
looking at this, can I say that this? So this is the thing. What this guy's done as director. So you mentioned he's done several music videos, some shorts. One of them include called Taco Bell Web of Fries, and then the last two films was Top Gun Maverick, which he might have directed, but I'm pretty sure the reins were being held by Mr. Cruise.
yes,
And then he's done one called Spiderhead, which was done for, I believe, for Netflix, and was absolutely panned for being for some of the similar things we're saying about this film as being just a hollow mess. So,
yeah.
um, it seems to be a bit of a pattern.
God,
Um,
who gave this guy Tron Legacy?
well,
Like, who thought that was? I mean, that makes the Alien director's decisions make a bit more sense,
yeah.
Like,
Well, I do get the feeling that this is a visual director, and
mhm.
he read the script and he was like, "Cool, this is the stuff we're going to do." And again, I'm going to look at the screenplay and the writers, and
Can we
um,
just ban Tom Cruise from
oh, there you
acting?
go. So this is based. Oh,
I
Joseph Kosinski, graphic novel, original story.
yes,
That's why.
yeah,
Um. So
yeah,
yeah,
unfinished graphic novel.
yeah, turned into a script.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is sort of like a mishmash of kind of like Moon and a bunch of other movies.
Yeah,
Um, and that's fine. I mean, I think there's room for that. I just, this just feels like the most sort of superficial way you can merge all of those.
yeah. I think I'm gonna we'll look. 'Cause I think we're sort of repeating the sort of points. I think at this point, we're both kind of like either it's. I'm not gonna say it's a Marmite film. I think you have to sort of meet it on its terms as to whether or not you like or hate it. However, I will concede this is not a deep movie. It thinks it is.
Mhm.
I think it thinks it is. It's not a deep movie. This does not have any impact. The fact that this is a kind of forgotten film is I think it's a beautiful looking film. I think visually, I think there's some really cool stuff in this. I think there's some really great shot sequences done incredibly well. The fight scenes underground where the drones come in and they're sort of like the way that their guns work
Oh yeah.
um, look great. At one point when it's sort of firing one way, then it just flips over and it's firing behind it and stuff. Some of this is filmed shot incredibly well and it looks beautiful. But that's what it is. There's a review on this which says this is the greatest computer game you've never been able to play. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty. I think that's a really good description of this. Like, I enjoy watching this in the sense of like, I know I'm going to be able to sit in and go, yeah, cool. I can watch Oblivion. It's a couple of hours. I'm in and out, and I'm done. It's not going to challenge me, and it's kind of like a fun-ish sci-fi film that looks good, and
Yeah,
I'm
fair
going to
enough.
appreciate.
I
But yeah,
mean,
this
you
is not.
mentioned the fight scenes. I don't think any of the fight scenes work for me.
Mm,
I like the drones rotating, but like take for example the canyon with the Statue of Liberty's torch magically inside the bottom of a canyon.
yeah,
Um, I'm telling you, there must have been some teleportation technology just going all around the Earth's crust or something that's not mentioned in this movie. Um, Tom Cruise hides underneath a waterfall. I'm not sure where that water source is coming from, but apparently he hides under a waterfall. There are three drones following him. The drones fly on by. Okay, great opportunity to flee in the other direction. Instead, he follows them through the canyon to shoot at them. But we've just established they fire behind.
yeah,
So there's no advantage to being behind them in combat. Why am I watching anything in this sequence? And then they fly through the end of the canyon in the classic kind of like, oh no, you're gonna go through there. Well, we're gonna rotate, as we're being bashed in the side by the drone, which I don't believe. And then they appear between. So, like it you see where the money went, right?
mm,
Like it's a good
mm.
CG, but I don't understand anything that's happening. Like,
this is a film created by a visual director. I think that's all I can say. The Tom Cruisiness of the Tom Cruisiness of the whole thing situation, I can abide, and that's fine. It is what it is. But I think this is one of those situations where it was created by a visual director, and there's this like that looks cool. I want this chase in the film. It'll look cool. The canyon sequence. What it makes me think of is, I mean, it looks great. Again, you said the CGI in this is very good. I think that it's very meticulous. But if you go to Universal Studios and you ride the Back to the Future virtual thing,
Hmm.
it was just like that. It's just like we're going to go through that. You're going to ride through a cannon. It's like a VR unit where you go like, oh wow, that looks kind of jarring, and but it's kind of cool. Everything in this it's a glossy surface to hide the fact that barely any of it makes sense. Where does the water come from? Doesn't matter
Hmm.
because that waterfall looks great. It looks cool. When the ship breaks through the water, all right, looks good. When it's chasing some drones into the cannon, looks good. It's all that matters. That this film does not. You're asking the wrong thing of this film, and you're right to ask and say to point it out. Say some of it doesn't make sense, but I think that they're going to go yeah. But did it look good? Oh, it looks great.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally I can get on board with that. I think that, I mean, if there's one scene like that, I can, give it a pass and go like, yeah, but it looks good, especially if it manages to sell itself with the music and the acting and, they'd be like, okay, I mean, we've given a pass to lots of things here and
Hmm.
there. Um, yeah, I just sort of feel like I don't have anything to hold on to, like, I don't know.
It's good. Do you know why you can't hold on to anything? It's because this everything in this is made of iPods, and everything's a flat, smooth surface. There is nothing to hold on to. It's just all smooth. Um, yeah, I don't know. This film's a very hollow film. That's all there is to it. It's a very hollow film.
It's
Um,
glitzy.
it looks great, yeah, but it's a very hollow film.
Yeah.
I'd be interested. I think maybe I'm going to go back and have a look at the sort of like this era. I'm going to look from like 2008 to about to 2016. There's a period of 8 years where I'm like, there's this bunch of like films that were made that just seem to be forgotten about.
Hmm.
And are any of them any good? I think like Neil Blomkamp came out of this era with um, just District 9, Chappie, and Elysium, and then sort of disappeared. And then there's a couple of others like that where I think people went, "Oh, we're going to try this," and then just it never went anywhere.
Yeah, I sort of see, that sort of never mind, it looks good
Mm.
kind of part of so much what I hate about cinema today. I mean, I can't watch those, superhero movies where, it's like, I mean, look, Black Panther has the same problem with just like there's a giant waterfall behind them. What's the source of that water? I
Yeah,
mean, I don't know. I'm the only person I know who watches movies and just thinks about like architecture and geology, like
yeah,
the amount of time that I've thought about geology, watching like fantasy movies where that's way more interesting to me than what's being presented as the plot. I find myself thinking like, how did this canyon get there? How could I possibly justify it? Like, and I'm more interested in that than I am in the fight. I don't know. Maybe this is just my weird brain.
I think
But
I
I
think
like
part of
dumb
it is
movies.
yeah,
Don't get me
yeah.
wrong. I mean, I like me some dumb robot fighting.
But I think it's what's being displayed. I think that's part of it, isn't it? This is a travelogue at some point. There's a whole section of this film where it's just like ooh and ahhing at the sort of the Icelandic landscape, and you're like, yeah, it's
Mm.
beautiful. But I could get this from like David Attenborough's Blue Planet. This is I could watch this and actually have actual nature documentaries telling me things about it in just a stunning 4K. Um, yeah, this is a throwaway film. This is a good looking throwaway film, and that's the best I can give it. You know.
Yeah, I think that's more than fair. I mean, it's got a few ideas. It certainly wants to be a everything is wrong.
Hmm.
It's got a little bit of the sort of like clone, you know, uh, false memory kind of thing. I mean, it does have a few ideas there. It's got a plot that is ambitious, it just isn't interested in any of those themes.
Yeah. Well, I think it is. I just don't think they know how to articulate them. They shorthand them, don't they? That's what this film. When they were writing this, I mean, again, they tried to do a graphic novel, and I can definitely tell you that that script or whatever it was that they were doing for the graphic novel got translated, and there were huge portions of it that were just descriptors of what would be in the panel, and they're just sort of like,
Mm.
the panel is through a doorway in a cabin, looking at Jack stood by a lake, where we can see, artifacts from the lost, the lost elements of humanity. That's the panel. That was the panel descriptor that was in the script, and they've just gone, "We're going to use that. That's good." I can so see some of that stuff just being translated. I'm saying this is a visual script, and the story's just incredibly thin. It could be amazing. This film could be
Yeah, no, that's true.
really good, and at the same length. Like, there's whole sections of it, like, yeah, we
Yeah.
don't need that bit, we don't need that bit. Let's really make this interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, in a movie about a clone, right, who is struggling with his identity and how he is really a pawn in a, alien conspiracy. Um, Maybe cast an actor who's capable of showing 1% of interiority.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I'd like to be able to know what somebody's feeling or thinking without them saying, "I'm angry."
Yes.
um,
Yeah. I don't know who I would. I can't think of anyone that springs to mind. But like, there are actors that I think would do it very well. There are some fantastic actors, but unfortunately, this isn't that film. This is a Tom Cruise vehicle, and I think this is
right.
how it was.
I mean, I
But
want Sam Rockwell from Moon just going like,
mm. And that's a film we should
I'm kind
definitely
of
cover. That's a film we should
creepy
definitely
and
cover.
kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, like, oh, they fucked me.
Mm. No,
Yeah,
this is a film sold on it being a
yeah.
Tom Cruise film. That's part of the pitch. Tom
Yeah,
Cruise
do you
stars
want
as.
Mission Impossible with more flying pods?
No,
We have the
yeah,
movie for you.
I can imagine that this film started, and I don't know the history of how this got pitched, but I can imagine him coming across this in some way. If he chose him then to direct Top Gun Maverick, they've clearly got a relationship in some way. They may have come across it in this, but they have obviously connected. Um, I think that a big part of what went to the studios is Tom Cruise stars as blah blah in this film, and I think that
Hmm.
was the opening line of any time this film was pitched. Tom Cruise stars as, and then the story. That was the opening. I guarantee that's how every meeting started.
Yeah, yeah,
And if it was
yeah.
sort of like, but if it was sort of like somebody else, um, I can't think of who else at the time would have been a star, but like, it would have been in the mid 2010s. It would have been Chris Pratt stars as so and so, or do you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
how this film would have worked. This is
And it would have been exactly as superficial, just with more
exactly,
winks at the camera,
yeah.
you know?
Exactly, yeah. They'd have lent into the humor, or they'd have done something else. This film was always, with the people involved in this film. This film was always going to be this film.
Yeah. No, you're probably right.
And
Yeah.
I'm watching it and going, I always know this film was going to be this film, and I'm going, fine, that's what I'm watching. Um, it's a bit. I'll end on this comparison, right? When I watch a Roger Corman film, I know I'm watching a Roger Corman film, and I'm going, I'm watching a Roger Corman film, and I know that, and so I know what kind of things I'm expecting from it, from that kind of thing. I'm watching a 70s Roger Corman film. All right, cool. I'm watching a 70s Roger Corman film. Like, it's not going to be great. It's not going to be too deep, but it's probably going to hit certain things, or, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I'm totally down with watching fun, stupid movies.
Hmm.
I do get irritated by thinking about how much money is spent,
Well,
and
yes.
somebody didn't check the script or whatever. But, like, give me I watch fun, stupid movies and I'll say, okay, just give me a few scenes that work, give me an action sequence or two that works, give me a theme, you know. Like that's about all that I need. I don't feel like the action sequences work in this movie. I
Oh, I disagree.
am not
No, I like them.
entertained. I
Hmm.
mean, all those like pods just shooting stuff up, like great. You've got machine guns. They're firing at people, Okay. I don't know. I mean, I'm not really entertained by any of the action sequences. And I feel like there's no theme, right? I mean,
Oh, there
there
is not.
are,
There is not. There is not. There's a candy floss theme. That's what it is. It's
yeah,
like, eat this, it dissolves in your mouth, and that's it.
yeah, yeah. Hmm. It is what it is.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I think it's fair. I'm glad. Look, I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
you enjoy it more than I do.
Yeah.
And
Um,
it's not a bad movie. I mean, I think it's kind of more on the poor side than fine,
yeah.
but um, I could see rating this a fine movie. It is what it is. Yeah.
I can tell you now they thought this was going to be a bigger movie than it was, um, based on one thing. When this was released on DVD and Blu-ray, I don't know if you've ever seen the cases.
No.
So like a standard DVD or Blu-ray case, standard, all right? Pretty standard shape, rectangle, whatever, nice and narrow, so you can get plenty of them on your shelf. This one came with a sort of like white frame edging around it that was protruded out from the case that was basically that white iPoddy edging to frame
Mm.
things, much like everything was in the film. Yeah, they really thought that this was going to be like, oh, you're going to want this on display as part of your DVD or Blu-ray collection. And I now see those often in charity shops for like 50p because no one ever wants them because they're a pain in the ass.
Yeah, fair enough. Can I ask one final question?
Hmm.
Why is this called Oblivion?
I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah, that I don't know. That I couldn't answer.
okay.
I don't even think the word is used in the film once.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what the oblivion is. It that the main character dies and so he faces oblivion? Is it that humanity is on the verge of oblivion? That's as far as I can get.
I think there was a pinboard up or a dartboard with cool words on, and they just started throwing darts at it, and Oblivion got hit more than any other.
Yeah. I think that kind of says it all.
Yeah, yeah,
You know.
yeah. You are right. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we shall end on that. This is the end of our apocalypse um
Bonus
series. Yeah, the
episodes.
bonus
Yeah.
episodes. This has been our Patreon. This will be appearing on the main feed later. You'll find out why. But yeah, this has been interesting just to go to this, and we are moving on. But if you go to on the main feed, we will have done our season 5 wrap up, discussing all of these and how it's been one of the most sort of depressing periods in movie watching history for sort of, but also very good. I think it's been kind of fascinating. Um, to see the different takes on the end of the world and what humanity will be doing after it. But yeah, we are moving on. We've been literally talking before this show about what we got coming up, and from a Patreon point of view, we've got some changes coming, which we'll talk about on the season 5 wrap up. But we got I'll give some hints. We have got RoboCop coming soon. We've got some RoboCop. We've got a Redux season coming as well, where we're going to go and um, go back and look at a couple of things that or either we didn't finish all the um,
Sequels or,
sequels
stuff by the same director we covered already. Or...
yeah, so you're going to have sort of like King Kong versus Godzilla. Um, we're going to have Stalker, which I'm quite looking forward to. The Return of the Jedi, Search for Spock. We're going to do Fifth Element. We've got some of the more Transformers. We're even going to throw in some Zack Snyder with Sucker Punch and some Terry Gilliam with Zero Theorem. So we've got some good stuff coming and lots of other things coming. So excited, but I'm really keen to be getting on with RoboCop. I'm very excited. to get through all the RoboCops and see how that
Now,
sort of.
now those are movies with themes.
Well, the
You know,
first two,
not
at
all
least.
of them,
Yeah,
but
the first two,
the
at
first
least.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're excellent examples of how you could do an actioner with some themes. I mean,
In less than 2
um,
hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
Verhoeven could do it.
Yeah. Verhoeven could do. Yeah, Verhoeven. Yeah, Verhoeven's Oblivion would have been very interesting.
I would love so much to watch Verhoeven's Oblivion.
Verhoeven directing
Oh,
Tom Cruise would be. I don't know. That'd be
it would not
interesting.
work well. I mean,
No.
two dominant personalities who both have a vision for the film that
Creative
are not going to
differences.
be totally different visions.
Yeah, they
But
would have
for
creative differences, I think, as they put it in the business. It would never reach the screen. Anyway, for now, to all our patrons and supporters that listen to this first, thank you very much. We appreciate all the support that you give us. And Julian, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank
This
you.
has been a fantastic look at all these post-apocalyptic films and thoroughly enjoyed them. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And we shall see you on the next episode.